business is that in the last 20 years, and probably for the next 20 years, growth is not going to come from huge Fortune 500 companies. It's going to come from small to medium-sized businesses, basically startups. So we know what happens with that is that a couple of engineers get together, or a couple of inventors of life science products get together and they start a company. They look for where they want to live to locate their business. Do they want to locate their business in Austin, Texas, or Columbus, Indiana? So we have to compete for startups. And the research shows that if you are a minority, especially an immigrant or a woman, you are much more likely to start a business. So we have to be a community that welcomes startup economic growth from the immigrant community and the female half of our population to be a community that grows economically. With increasing diversity, there's some research that shows that people kind of hunker down and want to be with their own kind or people that they feel comfortable with. So you end up with people sort of self-segregating in the workplace. There's nothing wrong with that as long as it's not encouraged in the workplace. But what you have to guard against as an employer, and the increasing cases that federal EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, sees, as well as local civil rights enforcement agencies like mine, we see harassment cases. Harassment cases are very frustrating to me because it's just basically courtesy. You just don't use racial slurs in the workplace. You don't wear shirts with hate symbols on them to the workplace. You don't drive your car onto a company-owned parking lot with a hate symbol on the bumper. You just basically behave the way your mother taught you to behave. The harassment cases that grow are really about employers not nipping it in the bud. And the bottom line is that employers have to have a harassment policy, not just a sexual harassment policy, a harassment policy that covers religion, disability, national origin, age, race, color. You have to have a policy, you have to train your employees in that policy, and you have to enforce that policy. With an aging workforce, when you have a younger supervisor managing an older worker, you really need to, in my opinion, be proactive and go ahead and train your employees to handle that situation appropriately. They need to set expectations that are uniform. It is perfectly acceptable to have expectations that everyone be computer literate or everyone learn this new software package. What we see happen, we don't see older workers refusing to do those things. We see them not being offered the benefits of training and the opportunity to learn those things, and then being demoted or passed over for promotion because they are thought of as being unwilling. And then when you actually go and delve into the records of the company, you see all of these training opportunities that they even asked for or didn't get, and then they were passed over for promotion. So you need to make sure that your younger workers are prepared not to stereotype and to offer training opportunities and promotion opportunities uniformly in the workplace. The other thing we need to do, there's changes to the disabilities law, the Americans with Disabilities Act, that means that most employers are now going to be needing to deal with that law very specifically. And I would recommend that most supervisors, anyone that has the power to grant a day off, needs to be trained in the ADA. I often have groups that I'm going to be speaking to try out the demonstration tests on Project Implicit, and you can choose different tests. You can look at race, you can look at disability, you can look at unconscious bias on gay issues, older workers, and you take the test. You get your own results. No one else sees your results. The reason I do that is that most people are surprised by the results. Even minorities will find that sometimes they're biased in favor of the majority in their community or the majority that they were raised with. So what you find is that you are influenced by the majority culture in the unconscious ways you think about things, even when you don't mean to. And I think, there's lots and lots of research, and it's on the website if you go to the research page, that looks at what the implications of Project Implicit are. The research shows it does have an impact on decision making. And so what I want people to come out of hearing me say, they're not going to remember all the numbers I spout about changes in diversity, but what I'd like them to think is assume bias. Assume that they are biased unconsciously, assume that their supervisors that they are managing are unbiased, and create processes and structures in the workplace that lower the impact of bias. If you've got a really good job description and you hire based on that job description, you are undermining the impact of unconscious bias. But if you go into a bunch of interviews with 15 different people that you'll barely remember after you've interviewed them, if you don't have a really strong job description where you know what skills you're looking for, you're going to make a decision that's more based on who you feel comfortable with, who you kind of liked. And that's when unconscious bias impacts promotions, hiring, discipline. Most of the companies that we investigate, they don't think they're discriminating. They will walk in the door extremely angry that they're even having to be there and defend their actions. And they will insist that they are hiring or firing or demoting based on something like attendance. And then when I have them produce all of their attendance records, their own records don't support their decision making because unconscious bias impacted an individual decision maker in the workplace. One person got demoted for 10 absences, another person had 20 and experienced no problems. So what I hope people do when they look at the Project Implicit results is think about what structures and processes they can create that create as equal and discrimination-free workplace as they possibly can. That's my goal.